Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News. I'm your host, bringing you the latest updates on Iraq's economy.
Welcome back to the Iraqi Dinar channel, a space built on trust, insight, and strategies for every holder navigating this long and uncertain journey. The focus for so many in this community has always been the extraordinary day when the revaluation finally happens, the moment often referred to as RV. It is described as a life-changing event, a turning point after years of waiting, sacrifice, and quiet belief that something better is on the horizon. Investors picture the joy of checking exchange rates, seeing the numbers leap, and realizing that all their patience has finally paid off. This vision sustains countless people who continue to hold onto their currency despite discouragement from critics, despite doubts whispered by skeptics, despite endless cycles of rumors that rise and fall in online forums. The dream of RV becomes more than just a financial expectation. It becomes an emotional anchor, and for some, almost a mission that defines years of personal and family planning, yet hidden within this anticipation is a risk that few take the time to confront. When every ounce of focus is directed toward that single future day, the present slips away unnoticed. Too many investors place all their energy on the hope of revaluation without pausing to ask critical questions about the path leading up to it. If the timeline is longer than expected? What if the process stretches for years beyond what the community imagines? If delays become not the exception but the norm? These are not pleasant questions, but they are necessary. Financial planning is not built only on optimism. It is built on preparing for both the best and the worst. An investor who builds their mindset solely around celebration day risks being caught unprepared for the long road that might exist between. And now and then, the reality is that time itself is the most unpredictable factor in this journey. Time can serve as a powerful ally for those who use it to prepare, strengthen their position, and organize their personal financial life. Time can also become a destructive enemy for those who sit idle, waiting, and relying only on rumors to guide decisions. The people who ultimately thrive are not the ones who gamble everything on guessing exact moment of revaluation. They are the ones who develop habits of preparation, who organize their finances, and who remain adaptable no matter when the event occurs. By shifting focus from the question of when RV will happen to the question of how prepared I will be when it does, an investor takes control back from uncertainty and places it in their own hands. Adding to this complexity is the constant stream of conflicting reports that flows through online spaces, conference calls, and private groups. One group of analysts argues passionately that RV is only a short distance away, pointing to political developments, international agreements, and banking reforms as evidence. They highlight positive signs such as Iraq's growing economic relationships, adjustments in monetary policy, commitments to transparency as indicators that the finish line is within sight. Another group urges caution, pointing instead to deep structural challenges, global financial instability, and political complications that could extend the process by many years, possibly even a decade or more. The result for the average investor is a swirl of hope one day and discouragement the next, a cycle of emotional highs and lows that erodes patience and clarity. More the cycle repeats, the easier it becomes to fall into doubt, fear, or reactionary decision, making what remains consistent through all of this noise is one undeniable truth. No analyst, no insider, no rumor mill has the power to predict the exact date or hour of revaluation. Speculation rises and falls with political events, economic reports, king headlines that later prove to have little lasting effect. Many in this community have been holding for years, some for more than a decade. The lesson that emerges from such long experience is that waiting alone is not enough. The journey is not just about patience, but about resilience, clarity, preparation. It is about managing expectations and avoiding the temptation to place faith in every new prediction. It is about protecting not only your financial position, but also your peace of mind during the uncertainty that defines this unique investment path. When discussions about revaluation dominate conversations, the focus usually rests on how much the dinar will be worth, when it will happen, and what kind of wealth it will generate. Yet far less attention is given to what happens between now and then, or even more critically, what happens if an investor does not live to see the revaluation occur. This uncomfortable reality is rarely addressed openly, but it is one of the most important parts of responsible preparation. If RV takes another 5, 10, even more years, then many investors will be at a different stage of life. Some may already be in retirement, some may be transitioning careers, and some may no longer be alive. The question becomes what happens to their currency and how their families will benefit or suffer depending on the decisions made today. Without a plan, the very asset that was meant to transform a family's future could instead become tangled in legal processes and consumed by taxes and fees. Probate is one of the major obstacles that emerges when assets are not properly structured. On the surface, probate is simply the legal process of validating a will and distributing an estate, but in practice it often becomes one of the most draining, expensive, frustrating experiences a family can face. Probate courts move slowly, sometimes stretching the process for months or even years. During this time, heirs may not be able to access the very assets intended to help them. Bills may go unpaid, financial goals may stall, and family members may be forced to make sacrifices simply because access is frozen. Probate is also costly, involving attorney fees, court costs, appraisals, sometimes tax penalties, all of which steadily drain value from the estate. Even more troubling, probate is every detail you own to whom you left it to becomes a matter of public record, creating opportunities for disputes within families and even attracting unwanted outside attention. The most effective way to avoid these problems is through proper estate planning. At the heart of modern estate planning is the trust. Too often people assume that trusts are only for the wealthy or the famous billionaires whose names appear in headlines. The truth is that trusts are for anyone who wishes to build, protect, preserve wealth for themselves and their loved ones. A trust is a legal entity that holds your assets, whether they are currency, real estate, or investments, on behalf of your beneficiaries. Creating a trust does not mean giving up ownership. Instead, it establishes a legal fortress around your assets, separating them from your personal estate and shielding them from creditors, courts, and unnecessary complications. Trust ensures that your instructions are carried out exactly as you intended, privately and efficiently, without delay and without the burdens that probate brings. The advantages extend far beyond efficiency. By placing dinar holdings and other assets into a trust, you guarantee privacy at a time when transparency could attract unwanted attention. You also provide immediate access to wealth for your family, since a trustee can step in and execute your plan without court involvement. Families are spared the financial and emotional strain that often accompanies probate They can focus on maintaining stability rather than navigating bureaucracy. Perhaps the greatest benefit is certainty. When a trust is properly structured, family does not have to wonder what will happen or who will make decisions. They know exactly what to expect because you have already created the pathway. Estate planning transforms speculation about the future into a clear strategy. It ensures that wealth is not only created, but preserved, transferred, used in the way you envision, strengthening the foundation of security that every investor ultimately seeks. When the conversation shifts to the mechanics of an exchange, the atmosphere becomes charged with anticipation and caution all at once. Investors picture the moment they walk into a financial institution, documents in hand, ready to exchange what they have held for years into tangible value. Yet beneath that excitement lies a series of critical details that determine whether the process unfolds smoothly or whether unnecessary complications arise. The exchange process is not as simple as handing over currency and walking out with wealth. It is layered with verification, compliance checks, documentation requirements, choice of financial pathways that can either multiply or diminish the benefits of the revaluation. Those who understand the system prepare the right way, structure their steps, carefully stand to preserve and maximize the value of their holdings, while those who walk in without preparation risk delays, lost opportunities, and financial missteps. The first and most overlooked aspect is identification and legitimacy. BankSense and authorized exchange centers will not process currency without thorough verification. This includes not only government-issued identification, such as passports or driver's licenses, but also proof of purchase for the currency, receipts, and in some cases, declarations showing that the funds used to buy the currency were obtained lawfully. Money laundering regulations require institutions to trace the origin of currency holdings. Failing to provide sufficient evidence can result in rejection or even legal complications. Investors who have organized their documents in advance, keeping receipts and purchase confirmations neatly filed, will find the process far less stressful than those scrambling at the last moment. Verification is not a minor detail. It is the first gatekeeper in the exchange process. Another element that shapes the outcome is the rate itself. Many investors assume they will automatically receive the published international rate, but this is not always the case. Banks may offer different tiers of exchange rates depending on the type of account opened, the size of the currency being exchanged, whether the client chooses to engage in structured programs. Some may be offered what is known as a contract rate higher than the standard international rate in exchange for committing to keep funds within the institution for a certain period. This is where knowledge and negotiation skills become invaluable. Walking in unprepared means accepting whatever is offered, but arriving informed allows investors to evaluate options, ask the right questions, decisions with their long-term financial goals. The logistics of deposit also play a pivotal role. Once the exchange occurs, the newly credited funds do not simply sit idly, they must be allocated, safeguarded, and managed. Banks may present options ranging from standard checking accounts to private wealth management platforms, each with varying levels of oversight, fees, and benefits. Standing these options beforehand prevents rash decisions made under pressure. Security measures also factor in, as sudden large deposits often attract scrutiny or even attempts at exploitation from outsiders if confidentiality is not maintained. Choosing wisely ensures that wealth remains secure while still being positioned for growth. For those with trusts or prearranged estate structures, process becomes even more seamless since assets can be transferred directly into the trust without triggering additional complications. Equally significant are the tax implications tied to the exchange. Governments will treat revalued currency gains differently depending on jurisdiction, and without preparation, investors may be shocked by the share of wealth that is claimed through taxation. Consulting tax professionals in advance and understanding strategies for lawful minimization can make a substantial difference in the final outcome. Failing to plan can turn what appears to be a life-changing windfall into a burdened asset pool, diminished by obligations that could have been managed more effectively. The exchange, therefore, is not a singular moment, but rather a complex series of decisions that require foresight, discipline, and awareness. Those who enter the process informed and structured will find themselves positioned to retain not only the promise of wealth, but also the stability and clarity that ensures it serves their long-term vision rather than being eroded by missteps.